I asked for strength. And God gave me difficulties to make me strong. I asked for wisdom. And God gave me problems to solve. I asked for courage. And God gave me dangers to overcome.
From dating to relationships, from sex to love, from Christianity to politics, from darkness to light, you have now entered into the Real Zone. Welcome to Conversations with Trent, where no topic of conversation is safe from discussion. Now, here he is, Mr. Epic himself, Trent Williams.
Welcome to the Conversation with Trent and Shann podcast. Actually, tonight's going to be Tammy and myself. Unfortunately, Shannon is not with us tonight. We're sending love and light out to Shannon right now for the loss of her father, Mr. Rick. So I send love and light out to her, and I wish you guys do the same for Trent. So Shannon, we love you. We're waiting for you to come back. So good stuff. Let's bring Tammy in. We'll jump into this topic on consistency.
Hello. What it do?
I can't call it my spoiler, man. Good to see you, man. Good to see you. Hey, thank you for filling in Shannon. As I told you when we spoke, that she's dealing with the loss of her father, and really appreciate you coming in.
You're welcome. So sorry to hear that. My condolences to her and her family for sure.
Oh, yeah. More than sure she appreciates that. Yeah. So we're talking about consistency, man. This is a conversation that I was supposed to have on Sunday, but things didn't take place, all that good stuff. So everything happens for a reason. And on consistency, when I'm talking about consistency, I started thinking about, I was coming up on the anniversary of this thing that happened to me, with the paralyzation and what have you, and the bleed on the brain. So right. I'm thinking about consistency. There's a quote that I love, and I wrote a piece, some years past about consistency. I always talking about consistency, but I'll read the description of the show so we can get right back and jump right into this topic here. There are two primary choices in life: accept conditions as they exist, or accept the responsibility to change them. Personally, I decided to change them. Best decision I ever made in my life. So what I mean by that, personally, I decided to change it. When this happened to me, let's just be honest about it. Without consistency, I wouldn't be having this conversation tonight. I'd be dead.
So first time listeners, what happened?
I had a bleed on the brain 2 years ago. Exactly 2 years ago. And I fell ill. Bleed on the brain, became paralyzed. My entire left side of my eye was blind, completely blind. I gained my sight back and what have you. But without consistency, I'd be no more. I'd be dead. Mm-hmm. I was consistent in the recovery, consistent in the rehab. And actually that consistency, I'm glad that we're having this conversation tonight, because the consistency didn't start. It didn't start with me until after I spoke with you. Mm-hmm. After I reached out to you, I had no idea what was going on with me, but I kept getting these sayings. All roads lead to Memphis. Mm-hmm. Over and over. I was in rehab, rehabilitation center. It kept on saying all roads lead to Memphis. You need to contact Tammy. Mm-hmm. I ignored it for a while. I was in terrible shape even before contact, so you didn't even know that I was actually in it, anything had happened to me.
Right.
So once I listened to the words, everything that came to me, once I listened to that voice, I gave you a call. You tried to get me to do the whole television thing, and I didn't want to do it. But the consistency started when I would call you about the aches and the pains, and I wasn't even able to go to therapy because that was the beginning of COVID. My doctor would not release me to go to therapy. So I was stuck. Like Chuck, man.
So
where
you said something just a minute, and I'm trying to get some paper so I can write it down because I don't want
but
to miss this. You said that you didn't want to do it. So and I had forgotten all about the TV
yeah,
thing that I was trying
honestly,
to
I was in a desolate place, man. I
right,
just lost my mother 6 months before that,
right, right.
and I lost
But
my
the focus
brother.
was you didn't want to do it, but once you got a will, because when you were talking about if you wouldn't be here if you would not have been consistent in so many things, but and also the will to overcome, the will to do, because if you don't have that, you'll just be motivated
Pretty
temporarily
much.
or occasionally, and then consistency will not follow. So I thought it was just important to grasp on what you said about the part, and that's normal. It's okay for us to not want to do it. And as you were talking about the God speaking to you about all roads lead to Memphis, it's so many ways to take that, but I really think that God allowed me or knew that I would tell you, okay, now what? So what do we
What's
do?
so funny about that? When I would actually talk, when I was talking about my ailments and my limitations and whatnot, you you just disregarded everything I was saying to you. I was like, man, is this woman crazy? What's wrong with this girl? She can't hear. I'm in a wheelchair. I'm bedridden. You didn't even hear that, and that's what I needed at the time. I
Right,
needed that to actually jumpstart that consistency.
right.
I needed that because
And
I
I think
could.
it's
And
important to
honestly,
know, to have a cheerleader, and then to listen to God, because he speaks to us and he will direct us, and sometimes we may not understand, because it may not have
exactly.
mean like, oh, all roads lead to Memphis, like you go to Memphis. You just followed through and made the call,
I just
and
followed
that's
through and
what.
just let it just go. I
Right,
followed through and let it go. So when I talked about consistency, and Mark and I had a debate over in a conversation group about consistency, he was bringing about generational curses and all that good stuff and what have you. But the approach that I was taking was the consistency within myself, as far as what it took to get me to this point. I
okay,
had to be
share about Mark.
consistent.
What was Mark saying that it's generational whether we are consistent or not, or how we move? It's in our DNA. What was he saying?
He was pretty much he was saying, hold on one second. Mark's on actually on now. So hey
Hey,
Mark,
Mark.
if you could
Hey, Mark.
reiterate what you talked about the consistency, I'd appreciate that, brother. But pretty much what he was saying, like there are different levels to people's struggles. I
Mhm.
get that part, but when I was writing up the piece, I was thinking about the consistency within myself. If I didn't have the consistency, I would still be in that bed. Or worse, I'd be dead. If I wasn't consistent in my regimens, my dieting, constantly. It's not over for me yet. This is a daily fight. This is a daily fight. I have to be consistent on a daily basis.
See, I see consistency as discipline, but also a mindset. And maybe going back to, I don't know exactly what Mark said, but it is difficult it's not impossible, but it's difficult to move past what you know, what has become um what you're used to, what your familiarity or whatever. I think I'm saying that right. But it is difficult to get past that. Again, not impossible. So it was interesting that you said when Mark, because generational curses, that's something that I really like
When
to
I
study.
was exactly when I was going through that situation,
Hmm.
all I could think about was the finish line. Once I got that vision of the finish line, I knew exactly what I needed to do. So there were days when I wasn't motivated or anything. That's when my discipline kicked in. Discipline's supposed to kick in when you're not motivated.
Right. So how did you stay? First of all, what is consistency to you? What does I know we said discipline, but to you on a personal level, like what how do you, I guess a better question, how do you stay consistent in your doings? What do you do when you wake up and that mindset is not there?
Honestly, honestly, meditation and prayer gets me through the day completely.
Okay.
So every morning, I've been doing this for years. 5:15 every single morning, I'm meditating. before I do anything, before I go to the restroom, before I walk the dog, before I do anything, 5:15 every morning, I align myself with myself, and I align myself with my maker.
Okay.
That's what that's consistency for me. That starts my consistency. I align myself with my maker, with my God. I
Okay.
know exactly what I'm supposed to do. I know exactly where I'm supposed to go. And I'm not deterred, but I'm not deterred by it. I don't derail this train, none of that. My,
Okay.
my focus is razor sharp, completely razor sharp. But you have to align yourself with something. You have to, because the end goal is to get better. And I saw it already. So that's why I'm constantly every day, yoga, every day, weights, walking, everything, consistently. So you have to be consistent in life, man. Anything that you do in life, whatever you're going for, in that romantic relationship, in a personal relationship, in your family relationship, you have to be consistent on anything. As far as for me, in my opinion, even if I'm not dealing with you, Tammy, I'm gonna consistently not deal with you. I'm not gonna go back and forth. I'm not
It's hey, it's called get pick a side.
gonna exactly.
Pick a side.
So I'm not gonna
And
go
people
back and
are
forth.
consistent whether they know it or not, because if you're choosing not to be, you're consistent in choosing not to be. And so when people say, well, how do I be consistent, or how do I stay consistent? The same way that you're not, the same way that you don't,
And
because you are choosing.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I got 7 steps to get people through tough times. We
Okay.
got 7 steps that we're going to talk about. We're going to walk them through some of these things. There's 7 steps to accept tough situations in life. We'll start with number one: acknowledging the situation. That's the number one thing to start consistency off. You have to acknowledge the situation that you're in. When I acknowledge that I was in that wheelchair, I could not move this leg, I couldn't move this arm, I couldn't do any of that. I could not see. I acknowledged that first. I accepted that. I wasn't defeated by it. Notice I said I accepted it. I wasn't defeated. I did not claim defeat. I didn't claim defeat at all, but I acknowledged it. I accepted it. This is my now, right now. But I'm getting ready to change this shit. That was it. That was my mindset.
Yeah.
I acknowledged it. Number two, develop a plan.
Absolutely.
You have to develop a plan. Have to. My plan was, when I was in that wheelchair, where I actually went from the bed to the wheelchair, my my plan was to get to that wheelchair. If I get to the wheelchair, I can get down that hall in the rehabilitation center to get to that gym. My plan was to get to that wheelchair. So my first plan was to sit up, trying to sit up. I started doing exercises in bed before anybody could see me. I was in the middle of COVID. As soon as COVID started, I was in the hospital. The very beginning. So I couldn't see nurses. I couldn't, nobody. I was isolated and didn't even know why I was being isolated. So that was a plan. I was planning to get out of that bed into that wheelchair because somebody told me where the gym was at the rehabilitation center. I was interested in that gym. So that was my plan, to get into the wheelchair. Sometimes they'd have to restrain me because they left the wheelchair. So I tried thinking in your mind, when you're in a situation like this, you're partially paralyzed. Your mind still tell you, hey, you can get in that wheelchair.
Do it.
Knowing that leg cannot move, knowing you cannot scoot over, you can't do anything. Your mind telling you you can get to that wheelchair. So sometimes they caught me on the floor. Sometimes they caught me before I got out of the bed, and I had to be restrained. But I had the will to get to that wheelchair. I had to. That was part of my plan. That was part of my plan. Number three, seek help when necessary.
Wow.
Seek help when necessary. So, and what do you mean? What do you mean by seek help when necessary? Acknowledging is going to help you seek help. Like, hey, look, I can't do this alone. All roads lead to Memphis. Think about it. It kept coming to me. All roads lead to Memphis. I'm seeking help. I couldn't do it alone. The one person I knew was going to encourage me was the woman that was bringing me to her events time and time again, year in and year out, speaking at your events. I knew you was going to encourage me. So I was obedient and I listened. All roads led to Memphis. So I gave you a call because I knew you were going to assist me in this walk.
But you still called me crazy when although you say you
You're
knew,
still crazy a little bit, but I love you.
but you thought I was crazy when I didn't deliver the message. Maybe like, you know what I'm saying? I'm just saying that because sometimes people will be so guarded and offended to where they will miss the blessing. They will miss what has been sent to
The
help
reason
them.
why I called you crazy because I was like, I couldn't believe it was you because our relationship has always been the same. We've always given each other straight talk,
Mhm.
but I thought you was gonna have a little empathy on me, but you didn't. You
I
didn't.
think for me, I thought the empathy was listening. And now, okay, now that you've vented, what are we going to do? Like what you're saying, what is the plan? And that's where I think that's why I wanted to say people, and I think we talked about this. I know, I would like to think that I know who I can say it like I said it to you, that I knew that, okay, I felt like you were
Can
tough
you
enough.
share with my audience some of the things that you were saying to me?
I don't know if I remember exactly, but I do know it was this. Okay, now what? Okay,
Exactly. You would
so
always end your conversation with me like, okay, now what?
what do
So
we
what you
where do we
gonna
go
do
from
now?
here?
What?
What do we do?
Let's get to the comment real quick. Let's get
Okay.
to Mark real quick. Mark said that being that the show talks about relationships based upon the topic, that's what I thought you'd focus on consistency in relationships. You're right. As Mark being Mark, not knowing what the parameters were. That's
I think
Slash
is he
being
saying
Slash.
when you guys were talking offline about it? Is that what?
That's what he assumed
Okay.
because we're always talking about relationships.
Oh,
When
okay.
Shan's on, we're always talking about bettering relationships.
Okay.
We never get into this side of like my condition, or we never touch on that. So
Okay.
I get that. That's fair enough, Slash. Fair enough. I get it. But I'm more
Okay.
than sure he gets in that we're talking about. But yeah, but anything, like I said, even with relationships, you got to be consistent in the relationship, whether it be romantic, a brotherhood, even like with let's just go ahead and get transparent. My brother and I had problems. You know that, Tammy. You know that we had problems for a long time. But in order for us to have fixed the issue, we had to be consistent in communication. We had to be consistent in honest talk to one another. We had to be consistent. That's why the relationship is better now because we were consistent with one another. Once we got to that point, before we got to that point, we were consistent and better in the relationship. Once we realized that, hey man, this is all we have. You and I, that's it. You, I, and Al, that's it. We were consistent at that. After that point, we were consistent in our relationship. That's why the relationship is stronger. That's why it's so much better because we were consistent in getting better and growing together.
So are we switching it to relationships now?
Nah, just go ahead. We keep on.
Okay.
No,
Okay. No, I was just asking because you brought that up. I want to read the definition just so because I think it's so important because you guys words have power. They
yeah,
really have power, and I think so often we assume that we know, and not saying that we don't. But when you can sit down, read a definition of a word, and try to apply it in your life. Where does it fit in my life? Where does it fit in my daily thoughts, my daily actions? Because
right.
again, consistency is so deep. Consistency in the way that you think, consistency in the way that you take those thoughts captive and process them. You are consistent. It's just the question, what are you consistent in doing?
I'm glad you brought that up. And one of the reasons why this topic was so important to me. Let's just face it, man. Everyone's going through something.
Yes.
We're in desolate times, man. We're in desolate times. Everyone's going through something. If someone said they're not going through something, they're delusional. And it could be anything, like loss of family members, a lot. Everybody's going through something, but you have to be consistent in your everyday walk, man. I don't care what it is. You have to be consistent. If you want to get better, you have to consistently wake up every morning with a chip on your shoulder. Every single morning I wake up with a chip on my shoulder. Period. There's no exceptions. Well, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. Go finish.
There's
I think you're
no
right.
exception. You have to wake up with a chip on your shoulder every morning. If you want to get better, you have to consistently get to the growth. There's a process to this. I didn't just wake up and say, "Hey, I'm walking again." No, there's a process. There's a
It builds
process, and you have
momentum. Like it helps you gain momentum, and you will get there. You can crawl there, you can skip there, but if you keep going, you will get there.
exactly.
Period. And so I think it's important that everybody knows you don't have to run my race at my pace. You don't. You just have to know your race and determine how you're going to get there. You may want to get there, like I said, you may want to crawl there. You may want to skip there. You may want to roll over and roll all the way there, but
Yeah,
get there. But where is your there? What's your why?
exactly.
Where are you going?
I appreciate that, Ali, what you're saying. That leads to number 4: change what you can.
Hmm.
That's all a part of acceptance as well. So changing what you can in the situation, changing what you can. I knew that I could not change. I couldn't just take my leg and put the new one on right then and there. I knew that wasn't going to happen.
Hmm.
I knew it wasn't going to happen. I changed what I could. And I'm still disabled, but there's a different level of disability. It's a different level. As long as I had this, I was good. As long as this is controlling everything, I'm straight. I'm good. But we change what we can. I never got down on my limitations of, oh, I can't reach for that glass right now. I can't see my food right now. I didn't go into a desolate place. I change what I can. I adapt.
You
I
had
adapt
your
to the
woe is
environment.
me days. Nah,
Go ahead, I'm
you
sorry.
had your woe is me days.
Yeah,
Don't
but to you and
don't.
nobody else.
But you had them. You had
Yeah,
them.
to you, of
But that I
course.
don't care who you had them to or when or where. But you had those days. So
I did.
right,
I did. But the whole point is I knew that I could only change what I can. I knew that. But like I said again, you wake up on some days you're not motivated. That's where the discipline comes in.
right, right.
So I did break down and cry a ton of times. But discipline kicked in once the cry was over.
Okay,
Once you told me, okay, so what are you gonna do now?
okay.
So the crime was over, the discipline kicked in. So no, I'm not perfect at all, not by a long shot. This is not an easy walk. All I did was apply the tools that I was given and that I taught myself over the years. I used those tools to fix me. I used my own tools. I went to my own toolbox, which God gave me.
So I have a question for you. What would you say to because I think we all get there at some point in time, have been there, maybe there now, or will definitely get there. Life can get the best of us, and we can get caught up in such a routine that we lose hope or lose sight of what consistency will do. Even in this discussion or conversation, I thought about some things that I was lacking and have been lacking in just doing because I'm so caught up with with other things.
Right.
So, what would you say to people who have become hopeless and who are consistent in things, in doing things that will keep them where they are in spite of their dreams and their purpose?
Rephrase the question. I didn't hear you.
So, what would you say to those people who are caught up, stuck? Because sometimes you can get to a point, Lord knows I've been there, to where you lose sight, you lose hope, and you feel like I don't need to change my routine because this is it.
So, so pretty much what you're saying is stubbornness, right?
Well, I wouldn't say stubbornness, just kind of hopeless. They're stuck in a rut, doing the same thing. I can't say doing the same thing, expecting different results, but doing the same thing, thinking that this is the result. This is it.
Right.
This
Well,
is as far
personally,
as
for me, the only thing that removed me from stuckness and breaking a generational curse, as you know, the only thing that did that was my consistent belief in God as far as the faith and what I believe in, my personal belief. That's me, what I did. I stayed connected to my source. Everybody in life has a generator, man. And that generator, that's God. You got to stay connected. That's the only thing that's going to humble you, because let me tell you something, man. That bottom of the barrel is extremely dark when you don't have God to lean on. I had no one, think about it. I had no one to lean on in the bottom of that barrel. My mother was gone. My brother was gone. The one brother that would be there, that would be wiping me, cleaning me, bathing me, doing all this stuff, he was no more. I was in the bottom of the barrel. And the only thing I had to grab hold to was my faith, man. That's the only thing that got me up out of that barrel, was my faith. Let's just be honest, let's be fair. Let's just put it there. God, that's the only thing. That's the only thing that can humble you is God. And you know I was an egotistical SOB.
Still are.
Knock it off. But anyway, but the only thing that
It's time for your commercial.
What'd you say?
It's time for your commercial, 7:27.
All right, let's do that. Well, we'll be right back with the conversation and the leader of Bluff City Leadership. We'll talk about that after the break as well. We'll be right back, folks.
I asked for strength, and God gave me difficulties to make me strong. I asked for wisdom, and God gave me problems to solve. I asked for courage, and God gave me dangers to overcome.
Thanks for tuning into Conversations with Trent. We will be right back with more conversation after these commercial breaks.
Check out the creative work of the author Trent Williams of www.taylorkennedymedia.com. Chapter of the Delta gives us a peek at his life-changing events. And if that's not enough, Trent tells you more about his brothers and his life through memoirs in his book, The Four Horsemen. His blogs and daily stimulating quotes are published in his book, Life's Little Addiction. And when you have a need of some human coaching of life and relationships, take a look at Conversations with Trent, Volume 1 and 2, and Conversations with Trent, Limited Edition. You will find his works available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and all online book retailers.
Welcome back to Conversations with Trent. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're online and want to be a part of tonight's topic, you can do that by dialing 347-324-5327. Press the number 1 to get into the queue so that your voice can be added to tonight's conversation. Now, let's get back to the show.
We're back. Good stuff. Good stuff.
Okay.
Again, Tammy, man, thanks for filling in tonight, man. I really appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. This is a very timely topic for me in my life, so I hope that someone gets something from it. I was thinking about one of my favorite people, and if you don't mind, I want to read this quote. Frederick Douglass is one of my favorite people to study.
Okay.
And I was thinking about this. It says, if there is no struggle, there is no progress. Those who profess to favor freedom and yet deprecate agitation are men who want crops without plowing up the ground. They want rain without thunder and lightning. They want the ocean without the awful roar of its many waters. And I like that because we've gotten complacent, and I think that we see that life should be without problems and without issues.
Exactly.
And it is to a degree, because no matter who you are, as you said, you're going to go through something, and you're going to have to be consistent in how you see it, how you go through it, how you grow through it, but you have to do the work through it.
Exactly.
And I think that what is happening is that people are not willing to feel hurt, to be hurt, and to learn from it. What do I not do? And so we get caught up, and that's what I meant about being stuck. And we just get stuck, and we get distracted. Maybe that's a better word. We get distracted by things that don't matter. And I'm going to go ahead and say people that don't matter. Not that people don't matter, but not everybody is supposed to be in your life. Not everything. You're not supposed to have to or feel like you are supposed to take care of everything, especially when you're not doing your thing.
Exactly. Look like Mark had a mouthful to talk about. Let's bring
what is Mark
his
saying?
Comments in. Mark said, "Preach, Miss Tammy G."
Good to see you, Mr. Mark. Good to see you.
He also says, "Hey yo, come on, Mr. Epic. You posted many pictures and videos of lions, often showing a singular lion. A singular lion. The narrative, he's king of the jungle. Yet mostly he's part of a pride. There's a strength in numbers." I totally agree, but I totally agree. But you, as you know, Mark, I do walk alone, so it's all good. You're part of the pride, right? So let's go to another comment. Where he's at? What he's saying. 1 second. Let's get to him. Okay. Mark also says the first law of nature is self-preservation. In this microwave generation, most folks only see the finished product, not caring about the work that has been and being put in. Shooting in the gym. I love that, man. I love that. Good stuff. Good stuff.
And he's so right. People will start, but they want to cross the finish line long before they start. And that's what I meant. Like we are good at starting. We're good at starting, but getting through the process, when something happens, we want overnight success. We want overnight healing.
But I have to say this. I've never shared this with anybody publicly. I don't think I shared this even with you, Tammy. When I was at the rehabilitation center, something happened to me right before I got my sight back. The day I got my sight back. They came into the room like they normally do around 6:30. They got me out of the bed. And they put me in a wheelchair and they placed me in the. And that's actually in the new book, Romello. I wrote about that. It was so moving. They placed me in this window. It was overlooking the Mississippi River. It's a real beautiful view right off of Jefferson Highway. And I'm sitting there, right? I'm sitting there. And just these words kept coming to me. God was speaking to me at this point. And this is before I started sharing any videos, any pictures of the progress, because I couldn't even see. I couldn't see, I couldn't see my phone properly. because I was blind on the left side. And the voice just kept saying, it's time to start posting. I didn't have anything to, and no, do you know from my past that all these quotes and all this stuff used to come to me. And I just write them as they come. I even had a years past, I even had an editor on staff to where I would text her everything that came to me in the middle of the night, anytime, and she'd send it back, edited and everything, and I just publish it in the morning. But this stuff started coming back to me, but I didn't have anything for him. I was in a desolate place. But I was instructed to start posting. I'm like, post what? I didn't know what to even post, man. So I started sharing memories until I got my site back. So all I was doing was going to Facebook, sharing memories. If anybody goes down the timeline, they'll see that I've shared 1,000 memories from years past, because that's what I was doing, just recycling stuff that I wrote. But I started doing that. Then it was like, no, I want you to share video. I'm like, what? Share video? So this is that anybody that knows me, I'm extremely private. Nobody even knew I was in a hospital. And I'm instructed to share video. But it wasn't for me to gain attention. The words came to me very clear. It was fun, everyone to understand who was God. And you know I'm not like a Bible toter. I don't walk around with a Bible and quoting scripture or anything. But I was following instructions that day. I had to post those videos and those pictures that everybody see because they needed to know who God was. Not knowing what was to come. This whole pandemic. Not even
I see
knowing
that
what
a
was
little
to come.
bit different. Let me tell you why. I think I get what you're saying, but I also think it was about your pride. Whether you see, if you're gonna come here tonight about consistency and talk, we gotta you gotta share it all.
What you
Because
talking about,
a
Tammy?
lot
Go
of
ahead.
it was about your pride too. Yes, it's anything we post, I think, should be to
I agree.
help elevate people and ourselves as well. But we got to give those dark days and those dark hours as well, because we all have them. So yes, it's about what God is
I
doing
was definitely
in your
prideful.
life,
I was
but
definitely
it was
prideful.
also to show up your pride, because you
I agree.
fought that for quite a while. Because not because, oh, I want to post this, but I think it was because, what are people going to think, say about
That's
Minister
true
Trent?
because
So
the
tell
first
it like
thing
it is.
that's true what you're saying, because the first thing when you was talking about when you was doing it, you wanted me to come onto the television show and do interviews. I'm like, I'm
And
not
it was
doing it.
like, you I don't think you, if had COVID not happened, I don't think you would have did it. I
No,
don't.
I wouldn't have done it
Not at
because
that time.
remember,
Maybe
I
now
kept
in this
avoiding you.
season
I
you
kept
would.
avoiding you when it was on and it was time to meet up and all that stuff. I made all kind of excuses and all this. I'm like,
Right.
I'm not doing that.
Right. And it was because you didn't want to be in front of the camera in that
I
way. You
didn't.
wanted to be behind the camera.
I did.
Yeah.
I did.
And so,
Honestly, that's true. I
right.
mean,
And I want to be really, because there's somebody out there that's going to hear this, that have those feelings, and we all have them. We all have
yeah.
them. And I think that's what keeps us from really growing, because we
Honestly,
don't share enough of our dark
exactly.
days.
Honestly, when you called me about this interview with this television station, I was like, honestly, I was afraid. In my mind, I'm like,
She crazy.
she crazy, and I can't even
Yeah.
move my
I
arm.
know.
And to be honest with you, I ran from you like a 5-year-old kid about to get a spanking.
But see, as we talk about consistency, it's important for people to know that, so that when you find that you've gotten off track and you're running for some reason, you are being consistent in that running away from
Right.
where you do not want to go. So we have to turn around
But
and
everything
push
happens.
ourselves to be consistent and go
Everything
and get up.
happens in time, and I do it in a heartbeat now. But when you asked me to do a television interview, I was like, she crazy. She didn't even hear me say that I'm
I
paralyzed.
can't do this. I can't do that. I can't move the computer. I'm like,
You
so
was like, hey,
what?
call me so we can set the camera. I was like, can set the camera up for what? I'm not about to do that. Set it up for what? I'm not doing that. Well, people need to know where you at and what you're doing. Nobody's heard from you. I'm good. I'm not doing that. But I thought you were losing your mind. I said, this woman
Well,
want to get me on TV and do an interview for what? I did not want to do that, man, because my insecurities. I mean, I was like, I was even reluctant doing this. And when then you started venting and, well, you're going to come back, you're going to do a podcast and everything's video now. Is that, you're not on the radio no more. Everything's video now. I'm like, I'm not doing that.
but okay, I have to bring this up because now that I think about it, the TV show, for those who are listening, because you said it was about getting the word out about what God had did. This
Right.
was a worldwide TV
Why do you
station
think I was running?
that no, but my point is, if it was about God, then that would have been the place to run at that time. But you weren't.
I wasn't
You
ready.
weren't ready, and that's
I wasn't
okay.
ready.
Right. And
I
so
wasn't
what the
ready.
people need to know, it's going to be some days where you are just not ready. That's okay. But you need somebody pulling you saying, oh, you may not be ready, but we're going to
Yeah.
take baby steps today. Whether that be if you
So
just,
you still got what you wanted. I'm on camera to all these people and doing this every week. So you still
well, yeah, I mean, in the end, all that matters is that you get back up and you start going. Because so often people will not do that. They think that they've wasted, and that's what I meant about being stuck. Because people, there are a lot of people who are there. Like there are kids. I've had kids say, "What do I need to do this for?" I'm not.
exactly.
This is what I see is my future. I've not been past this neighborhood,
Exactly.
this thought process. So if kids can be that way,
What up,
then we
Al?
have
That's
the
my
kids
brother
that
Al
grow up to
tuning
be
in.
adults.
Appreciate you, Big Al. That's my
Hey,
brother Al
Al,
tuning
Al.
in. Yeah. What's going on, Wendy? Appreciate you tuning in. Good stuff. Good stuff. But yeah, as far as with the consistency, we'll go back to the number 6. Develop coping skills to deal with your feelings. Boy, I wish I had that back then. Developing coping skills to deal with your feelings. And I just didn't like when this first happened to me. I didn't even want to cope with it. I
How do
did
you
not
do
want
that?
to
How do you deal with what's your number one coping skill?
say again now.
What is your number one coping skill?
My number one coping skill to deal with the situation. I talk to myself. I talk to my leg, I talk to my arm, and I learned through meditation when you speak to yourself within yourself, things move.
Okay.
So I talk honestly, I talk to myself. That's how I cope. And as I talked that and as these 2 years was progressing, going into these 2 years, talking to myself helped me a lot. Solitude. That's the only way God does his work, man. God does his work in the dark.
Mhm.
If you think about it, God does his work in the dark. Everybody just happened to see it. But all his work is done in the dark.
Maybe.
You understand what I'm saying?
I said maybe.
Yeah, he does. All his work is done in the dark. God does not operate through confusion. God will not operate through confusion.
So when
So
you
when I
say
say
done in the
dark,
dark,
meaning
explain that.
you have to get quiet. You have to get
Okay.
quiet. You have to
Okay.
get to
That
a
part.
quiet place. You have to get to
Okay.
a quiet place. So I found my solace in a quiet place, in my space, quiet. That's why he went to work.
Right. And then there are some people, and I get the quiet time because it's a necessity for me. I get it. But there are some people that they just get it all the time. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if you've ever met that kind of
Wait, say it
person.
again.
They just get it all the time. Like their quiet time can be like my quiet time. It has to be a day, but there are times where I feel like I need a month
Right.
just to soak in. So I'm saying this not to get into me or whatever, is you have to know what works for you in order for you
I
to
agree with that.
create the consistency that is needed for your life.
I agree with that. I can
Yeah.
agree with that. That's fair enough. Fair enough. I agree with that.
Because what may work for me that pushes me into consistency may not work for someone
And
else.
the
And
number
that's why
one,
you
one,
have
one of this actually this is number 5, but this should have been like top 2 right after acceptance of the situation. This is identify what can't change. Identify what can't change. That goes back into acceptance. But you have to be consistent with this stuff, man. You have to be
I,
completely consistent.
you said identify what can't change or what you
What you
can't
cannot
change.
change. You have to identify it.
Okay.
Say like my situation, right? I had to identify that my arm is not going to get to 100%. I get it close. I've gotten it very close, but
See, I think totally different.
what
I'm gonna think it can get back 100% till the day I die. And I
that
might
but that
not
but
feel
that's
that way
but
every
that goes
day,
along
but
with the consistency though. So it's still a lot of people. I'm glad you brought that up because I was actually talking to my trainer the other day, and the reason why I transitioned from therapy to medical fitness because I researched it. But it's just a known fact that in the African American community that we do not research anything after we're hurt, anything after we've gone through something with our body or ailment or anything. We don't research anything. So I did the research on this. The reason why I know now that after a brain hemorrhage and a brain bleed and paralyzation and through a stroke and all this other stuff, you have to consistently work out to reopen the channels of your nerves, your muscles. If I didn't research, I wouldn't have known because I didn't know to ask the doctor questions. So how I found out about all these channels that runs through the body was through researching, through reading up, because I wanted to know what happened to me and how can I fix this. So I started researching. So I learned that the nerves in the body, everything's connected. It's just like this. You ever seen these ribs, like a St. Louis rib or something? You ever seen that white sheet of cartilage on the back of the rib?
mm-hmm.
That's how the body's connected. That's how all the nerves are connected to that cartilage from the top of our head down to the bottom of our feet. So if something's hurting on me in my feet or in my toe, it could possibly be happening up here because everything is connected together. I didn't know that before. Before the research, I didn't know that. All the nerves and the muscles and all that stuff. So, but I had to do the research and I had to realize that it was a process. So that's why I could actually continually grow through it and move through it and constantly motivate myself. And when I can't motivate myself, I stick to the discipline because I know exactly what ticks, what's going to make this tick. I know. And that's where consistency comes in for me. Because I did the work with the research first. Go ahead.
I want to share, and I totally get what you're saying. I want to maybe put a picture in the listener's mind. And I was thinking about this. I believe it was yesterday. How
Go
you know you and I were talking about if you can build a house one brick at a time. And I
right.
was thinking about if you just imagine this, if you were a builder, you're a constructor, whatever, you're building a house. And let's say
Right.
you really get going, you're building, you're there every day for a month. I don't know, every day, let's say for a while. And then all
Right.
of a sudden, you've made great progress, but you stop and you never go back. Well, I won't say never, but it's a while before you go back to the site. In those cases, most of the time, what I've seen from real estate and all of that is when you stop, especially with building a house, and you go back after a while, you're likely
Mhm.
going to have to start back over somewhere because something has gone wrong. You have to be consistent, even if you just show up every day just to take a look at it so that you will know if something has occurred that you need to address now. And so I'm saying that to say so often we have the momentum. Somebody motivates us just enough to pull ourselves out of our own very personal hell. but you lack the discipline to remain motivated. And so imagine that house that you did so good with. You went for a whole month, let's say, and then you took a month off. When you go back, rain has occurred, leaks is there, so many. It's just going to be something that if you had shown up every day just to check it out, you would have been able to make it right.
Right. Let's get to these comments. Let's see what Mark's talking about. Mark said there's something soothing about tonight's familiar energy, as if there's needs to be lemon ginger tea in the room.
Oh,
Mark, you know it's not far. It's not too far.
Well, I
Shout
got
out to
my
my sister
wine. I
Brandy.
got my wine.
Shout out to my sister Brandy, who actually she makes the ginger juice for me weekly on a consistent basis. Every single week, 2 gallons. She brings in on Monday. Ginger and lemon. I've been doing this for 2 years.
As he sips.
There you go. Good stuff, man. Appreciate that, Mark. Appreciate that, Slash. Yeah, that's good stuff, man. Real good stuff. But what's your superpower with inconsistency? Let's just say when
I'm going to tell you,
you can't motivate yourself. What's your superpower?
Honest to God, I just let myself feel and be. I stopped just forcing life. And I've stopped trying to force myself when I'm not ready to be, and knowing that. And to me, that's consistency that works for me. I have some areas that I still need to grow in, but I'm not going to, at the same time, I still have responsibilities. Life is happening, and I have to stop and take care of some things. That being said, I realize
you know what? What I love about you and
What?
can't stand about you at all in the same breath.
What?
When you go into your solace place, when you go into your serenity place,
I go.
You go. When I say go, you
right.
go.
But I have to, because
and ladies and gentlemen, this woman will not. This
No.
woman don't answer text. She won't answer
But let
calls.
me tell you why.
Hold on a second. But let me tell them
You can't
about
tell them about me.
This woman will go. She won't answer texts or calls. But damn, if she decided to put in her mind, she's going away for 6 months. That's what it is. I love that about you. I can't stand about you because like when I call, I want the phone to be picked up. But you just, I've been fighting with you like that for years.
Let me say this, and I have to. I do that for sure. It is for me, but it is more for the other people than it is me as well. Because if I don't get that time, because I give so much of myself out, so much.
Right.
And there comes a time where I have to feed my own soul and my spirit, or I have nothing for anybody, not even myself. So when I go out, and I'm unapologetic about it, because being consistent, one of the best consistencies you can have is taking care of yourself. And I learned that the hard way. So when I feel the need to go out, I'm going. And outside of, and it's got to be real deep, outside of my mama and my kid, I'm sorry, it ain't too much. And my grandbaby, not too much gonna pull me out.
Right.
So I go in deep.
As that's true. I actually jotted some notes. This conversation was so important. I wanted to make sure that I hit everything because I wanted these folks to get it. Tonight, I wanted them to get it. I wanted them to get the Trent of years past. I wanted them to get the Trent that used to come to Memphis and speak at the University of Memphis and all this stuff. That's the Trent I wanted to give these people tonight. So I wanted to make sure I get all this stuff in before the program is over. But one note that I did jot down was I knew if I kept at it, I would spark the nerves and the muscles at some point. I was committed. I was in for the long haul. So I knew if I kept striking at it, if I kept hitting that nerve, it was going to move at some point. Even when my arm would not move, I knew if I kept fighting with it, it was going to move at some point. It was going to spark a fire. I was more than certain that that hand was going to move. I was more than certain. It wasn't even when the days that it wouldn't do nothing. I knew if I kept at it, it was going to spark a fire. because the flame was already burning here. I just had to spark that fire.
Yeah.
But
And
I was in a blessed place.
I think we all do, Trent. And thank you for having me. For me, I will end in this. You have to. It all goes back to who you are, and what is success to you. What is your idea of success? What is your why? Because it differs. It's different for all of us. Some people may feel like whatever they're consistent in is enough for them, and if that
Right.
is it, so be it. I'm just one. I feel like success, whatever success is to you, that is consistency will get you there. Period.
Exactly. We're gonna close out on Mark because he's quoting my favorite guy here. We're gonna close out on Mark. And again, Tammy, thank you so much, man. I'm
You're
grateful.
welcome.
I appreciate your friendship. You know, I love you. I appreciate you, man. I really do. And shout out to Shannon. Shannon, we
Yeah.
love you.
Prayers for you and your family,
And
Shan.
prayers for you, beautiful. And we will make sure that you get back and come back stronger than ever. So we're with you. Even though we're not there, we're with you. So here we go. Mark says, come on now. Your man Jay-Z says difficult times a day. Difficult takes a day. Impossible takes a week. Keep the positive juju out the universe. Okay, I got you. I got you.
Mark
Good stuff.
is dropping those nuggets tonight. And he's another
Exactly.
one.
He's always
I
he
put
does
an
it every
offering
week.
out there for him to come in and be on the show. I'm still waiting, Mark, since you got all these butterfly nuggets. Why don't you come
He
drop? Why don't
drops
you
it on
come?
me every week. He drops it every time
Yeah,
we
I'm
go
gonna get him
live.
on
He
the
drops it.
show. We're gonna pick a topic to fuss about.
Exactly. We're gonna have to do that. We definitely gonna have to do that. We have to have
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you, man. We are up on 2 minutes, but let's talk about a little bit about Bluff City leadership. Tell them exactly what it is.
So Bluff City Leadership is my baby, you guys. My second baby. Butterfly Evolution, I guess, is my first. But all of it is really about helping people build and maintain healthy relationships. That's professional and personal relationships. Starting with yourself, I believe one of the most important relationship is the one that we have with ourselves. Understanding yourself. So that's what it's about. Learning to understand what you need and how do you need it, and be able to effectively communicate, and not just effectively, but from an adult standpoint. Because I feel like the way
It's
that
very important to repeat that so for the people in the back who didn't hear it. For the what?
for effective communication from an adult perspective standpoint,
From the adult. That's the
right?
target word is
Because
adult.
right. So many times, you guys, we are childlike. I'm not going to say become. I feel like there between what is said and not meant, and what is meant but not said, relationships are lost, and we are losing people that we care about, that we love. We are at war. Families are at war. My son and I were talking about the tribe. We got into a really deep conversation about just the tribe mindset. We've lost that. I come
Right.
from living 13 deep in a house where we slept together, one bathroom, never went without food, because everybody was there, just doing it together. We've
And that's
lost
important.
that.
It's important that you say that, man. And like I said in the opening of the show, we're in desolate times,
We
and
are.
everyone is going through something. So whether they want to admit it or not, and the pridefulness and all this other stuff, that's delusional. Everyone's going through something. Period.
And most
And
of the time, privately and pridefully.
I agree.
Or privately because they're pride. Um,
Exactly.
so
That's where acceptance come in, man. You have to accept it where you are. You have to appreciate your now where you are. Then you can move forward in a consistent manner.
right,
Once you're honest with yourself. That's what
right,
had to happen with me. I
right,
turned down a whole interview on a stage that was being broadcasted worldwide because of my pride. Because I didn't want people to see me like that. That was on me. That was my pride. Because if I'd have told Tammy yes, she would have green lighted that. It would have been green lighted. As soon as I said yeah, she would have green lighted for me. That's just the type of person she is.
right,
But my pride got in my way because I was still worried about what people would think, what they're going to think about me. That was very prideful of me.
You said
I
that?
ended up hurting
You
myself.
said that? Did you say that?
Knock it off.
Knock it off. You was worried about what people going to, what? Do I need to get the roll in my neck? What?
You know.
But no, you guys, check out bluffcityleadership.com. Couples is my thing right now, but I'm working on something I'm working on something for our young people. Another one of Frederick Douglass's quotes, it's easier to build, to build, you have to work on the kids than repair broken men, basically. I don't know how it says, but I don't know. We got to start with the babies, and we got to do something different. We got to break those generational curses because they're going on and on. So that's what Bluff City Leadership is about. BluffCityLeadership.com. I do seminars. I have workshops, speaking engagements, assessment, life coaching, and marriage coaching. So let me know.
BluffCityLeadership.com is the place.
Yeah.
And I'd be remiss if I didn't say it. All for those old wonderful cookies and the infused cakes and all that stuff, go to tabs, ediblecreation.com. Support Shannon with their endeavors with the cookies and all that good stuff, as we always do. And again,
can I tell them something real quick before you go?
Go ahead.
So you guys, I mentioned the assessment that we offer. Mr. Cool Mojo himself took the assessment and cried like a baby. Okay, I'm done. I'm out. Cried like a baby.
Yeah, I did.
Like a baby, y'all. I was like, oh my gosh, what do I do?
Exactly. Well, hey, and that's what friends are for, because you're always there when I'm crying. So I really appreciate it, and I love you, my sister. I really do.
Same here, my brother. Same here.
Good stuff. Until next week, folks, we'll be back with another epic topic on Sunday. And who knows, maybe we can get Mark in here to drop some of these nuggets.
Mark's gonna be on Butterfly Illusion before he's on yours, because I asked first.
Yeah, you did. You really did.
Yeah. So if I see him on your show, I'm gonna come up with something to report to Facebook to get y'all offline.
And she'll do it. She'll definitely do it. Well, I'm gonna mark his hands off until he goes to Beautiful Butterfly. Good stuff.
Blessings, everybody. Thank you for having me.
Okay, no problem. You guys be epic.
Conversations with Trent in conjunction with Taylor Kennedy Media and your radio network would like to thank you for calling in and listening to tonight's episode. We hope that tonight's conversation offended you just enough to turn your mirror inward to come back for more. So until next week's conversation, be epic.